Hey guys and gals, Jay Anthony here. Welcome back to the channel. We're finally doing a review on a Grand Seiko. So recently, within the last couple of weeks, I was fortunate to take a multi-week trip to Asia. I love going to Asia. It's just a place that I find a lot of peace to be at. I was in Hong Kong, I was in Taiwan, and I was all over Japan. And every time I go there, it's just such a great experience. I highly recommend if you have a chance to travel. Japan and Hong Kong and Taiwan, of course, are all great places, and it's just a great experience. When I went to Japan, I was on a mission. I'm quite emotional about my watches, and I like to buy watches that really speak to something. And to me, there's something very romantic about actually buying a Grand Seiko in Japan, and especially in Tokyo. So I was on a mission in Japan to go buy a Grand Seiko. I've been to Japan before, been to their boutique in Ginza. Nothing really resonated with me, but this time I was walking by a shop and I came across this guy here. And what's really cool about this watch is I've seen a brown watch before. And I'll be frank, brown's not exactly my favorite color. However, I just thought it was really cool to see a watch in a tone that I hadn't seen. And with this one in particular, as with all Grand Seikos, I suspect, the way the light hits it at different points in the day, it shows different colors. It can show kind of green, it can show a little bit of red, and then when it's spot on, you see this brown pattern on it that's really cool. And quite honestly, I think most people that see this watch on my wrist assume it's just a black dial because of the darkness of it. Anyway, I stumbled upon this little watch shop called Samurai in Nakano in Tokyo. And the shop owner was awesome, spoke very little English. I spoke a little Japanese, and we met in the middle. Saw this watch sitting on the shelf, got a little bit of history of it. Japan only boutique edition. This was originally sold in Tokyo. I have the papers and the time graph from it. And it's just cool to have a watch that was a one owner, Japan, Tokyo specific model, and I'm buying it at a small Japanese watch shop in Tokyo. Just the whole experience just felt right to me. And I'd never seen a brown dial before, and I'm like, okay, here's the piece. One of the things that makes this model particularly interesting to me is it's 37 millimeter. And 37 millimeter to me is kind of the right size for a dress watch. I very much like larger watches. As you've seen on the channel, I've had Panerai and other watches that are significantly larger than this. But one of the problems you run with dress watches is some of the vintage stuff is really tiny. Like Patek Philippe, they're like 32 millimeter for a lot of the vintage pieces. And I love reversos. I've had a reverso. I never showed it on this channel. And then some of the modern stuff is 40 millimeters plus, which to me is just a little bit on the wrong side of large for a dress watch. So here we have something that's perfectly wearable, 37 millimeter, and it also gave me the vibe of my SARB 35 that I reviewed on this channel, which happened to be one of my favorite watches of all time until it broke. So that's a bit of a sob story there. But it just felt right in terms of the size and just the overall subtleness of it. And I really just appreciate the fact that it's not something you notice at a distance. It's something you have to investigate up close. It comes equipped on a brown alligator strap, has this beautiful buckle on it, which has kind of a Tudor medieval sort of font on it, which I think is kind of interesting. It's powered by the 9S65A movement. I know a lot of you in the audience are not super into tech specs, so I'll keep this high level. 35 joules. It's adjusted to 6 positions and temperature. So 6 positions, face up, face down, different angles, sideways. Basically what they're looking for in Japan is to make sure it's accurate, regardless of what angle the watch is sitting at. 6 positions is more than the industry average. A lot of them will not do quite that level. And the watch, when I ran a timographer, is running about a second a day, plus or minus. So that's pretty good for this. 28,800 is a standard rate. It's what Rolexes run at. Most Swiss watches run at this rate. So it's got a nice smooth sweep at the second hand. It's not going to be a spring drive where it's perfectly smooth, but it's also not going to be a lower beat rate like my Patek, which is 21,000, where you definitely see more of a noticeable ticking in the watch. You have a traditional Grand Seiko Mark Crown, GS Mark Crown. The thing about this watch that really hits are the subtle details. So you can go on YouTube and watch all the different finishing techniques that Grand Seiko does, and you can get lost in hours of videos about this and Zuratsu finishing and all sorts of stuff. All that goes out the window when you actually look at it and whether or not you can appreciate it. And I'm here to tell you the finishing on this watch is impeccable. And what really struck me the most about this watch, quite honestly, is the sword hands. The sword hands, the way they're finished with a mix between brushed and high polished, when the light catches it just right, is honestly stunning. And my Patek Philippe 5196 has sword hands similar size and style, but with the difference on this watch having the brushed, I'm not saying Grand Seiko is a better watch than Patek, that would be fundamentally untrue. However, the finishing on the hands on this watch are another level. I really think they're just stunning. I also really love the way they finished the date. I love the silvered background. This is something I really wish other manufacturers did. Everybody's done the generic white background with black font. The date on this really captures your eye, and that's what I love about just Japanese design in general, the refinement that they take things to. And it's a refinement that requires further observation. There are little details that you only really notice when you really make an effort. And it even comes down to the movement. I've seen a lot of watch movements in my day. I honestly am one of those people that thinks Rolex movements are quite nice to look at. I know they get a lot of nonsense for being poorly finished compared to their price point. I think they're utilitarian. I like them for that. I've seen more 28, 24, and 2892 Atom movements than I'd ever care to see in a lifetime. I'm here to tell you, looking at this 9S65 movement, it is beautiful. And here's a little side-by-side between this movement and the one in my 5196 Patek. They're clearly not finished at quite the same level, but to 9 out of 10 people, if you showed these two watches side by side, they would have equal visual impact. The movement is beautifully finished, and it captures the light in just such a way that it really is stunning. And so I'm going to keep this video short and sweet. Grand Seiko is not for everyone, and especially if you're very brand conscious and you're worried about what a watch says about you. What Grand Seiko says about you is that you just prefer refinement, you just appreciate craftsmanship, but you're not really worried about getting noticed. And especially when people spend a lot of money on things, I understand and respect why people want a brand that has cachet with it. It really shows the investment and the work that went into purchasing that piece. Grand Seiko is not going to buy you any real street cred outside of people that are really into watches. But if you are really into watches and you don't really care what people think about you, I legitimately think there are a few watches that bring more joy than a Grand Seiko, because it's all about watchmaking and finishing, and it's not trying to prove or be something that it isn't. It's not another copy of a Rolex. It stands on its own as an ambassador to Japan. It speaks of quality, it speaks of refinement, and it just is just clearly built by people that are passionate about watchmaking and passionate about building a very high quality product and just taking pride in what they do. And it shows in every part of this watch, and I'm very grateful that I bought it, and I'm happy to say that I've finally found a Grand Seiko that I like, and I'm already falling down the rabbit hole, and now the white birch is on my radar, and I'm doing my best to resist it. But thank you so much for taking the time to tune in today. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. What do you guys think of Grand Seiko? I'd be really curious about it. I've heard extremes of the spectrum of what people think about these watches. I don't think they're overhyped. I don't think they're underhyped. I think they deserve the hype. So with that said, if you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you could go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already for future content, I'll keep it coming. And also in the comment section, please let me know what you guys think. I really appreciate your thoughts.